Hi, everybody.
Hi,
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
My name is Matumbi. For those who don't know, I'm telling you my name so that you guys can get really, really comfortable. Welcome to Metro Mission Church. Um, it's chilled vibes, okay? No pressure, nothing rigid. We're here to connect, love, serve, and grow, all right? So thank you so much for honoring the invite of joining us for our afternoon service. This month is Women's Month, so our life group here at Metro for the women's ministries is called Empower Her. And we decided to invite women in different career faculties to join us and empower us with their journeys, all right? I have the privilege of knowing them personally. Lucky me. And I will be telling you guys a little, very little, on how I met them. And then they will go on to share a bit about their journey or the career faculty that they work in, right? So we do have education departments at church and stuff like that, but it's usually the doctors and the lawyers that get to talk. So doctors, you guys get a break today. Lawyers, you guys get a break today. And specifically, I wanted women to chat, but I wanted them to chat to women, men, and children, because there is no faculty that you cannot explore, or field that you cannot explore. I hope this opens our minds and it doesn't continue limiting us or giving us cause to limit ourselves as to what we can do. All right. I'm going to open in prayer, and then I'm going to begin introducing. I'm not going to be the one. I'm waiting for a volunteer to pop their hand up to open in prayer. And then I'll begin introducing our speakers for the day. You can watch the presentations again on Instagram or YouTube. Or if you're very nice to me, I might give you the clip. So, yeah. Thereafter, by the way, after they've shared their presentations, if you're interested in something that they spoke about or a part of their journey, we're going to have desserts and tea and juice outside. You guys can mingle. We'll network in the name of the Lord.
Amen.
Come on, Jesus. All right, then. So I'm going to ask someone to quickly come pray for us. Come through that.
Let's pray. Lord Jesus, Heavenly Father, we pray for your Holy Spirit to abide in this place and to bless each and every speaker that will be speaking. We pray that you may empower us for greatness and empower us to go out and to teach the nation about your word. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. All right. So I'll begin with apologies. Mihi couldn't join us today because of a bereavement, and Tulega also couldn't join us. Mihi was going to share about music and music education. So music is an actual study, guys. I just want to put it out there. Okay. I did study. I don't want to talk about myself today. Also because I'm still battling the whole multi-stream situation. But yes, I studied jazz and popular music at some point. It's a science, okay? It's like maths. So you guys can call me a mathematician, okay? But hopefully we'll have more time at some point to hear from someone who's better versed in the business of music education. All right? Is that all right? You guys are gonna come again? Okay. After me, we were gonna have Geologist, all right? How do I know Geologist? I know Geologist from what we call SDA circles. And I think she doesn't, I don't know if she knows or not, she used to be very popular when she was in high school, even to people who had never met her before, for always being in the top 10 or something like that. Right? Yes, you're that girl. As David. And then there's a time where on Instagram, SDA started posting their outfits. Do you guys remember that time? Do you guys remember? I know y'all on social media. Is it still that time? Oh, excuse me. Pardon me. Sorry, guys. Sorry, I'm out here like looking at food blogs and stuff. And I remember one of the pages that were quite interesting and exciting were Dear Gracious' pages. And okay, cool. So I then went to a couple of weddings, and people would say she's doing the makeup, right? For the weddings and stuff like that. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. So her, Nosipo, SDA folk that I know to be working as influencers, right? Like, outside of like church spaces. And the thing about that industry is that people are not always warm and welcoming, right? Especially with assistants. And I try to dabble in that as well. Guys, don't judge me throughout this process. Okay, no judgment. So I try to dabble in the whole influencer thing. And then I fell off, right? Now I needed to come back because I wanted, coin for pictures. And I remember DMing Dear Gracious. I had no clue as to how she was going to respond. And the response, in case she also doesn't know, is what drew me to her completely, right? It was a gracious response. It was a kind response. It probably seemed like just 3 minutes of her time, but it did so much for me to have someone in the industry look beyond themselves, be honest, and encourage another person to do the very job that they could be booking for themselves and to pursue it. Yeah, we met after that, we did other things that was nice. So with that, I'm gonna introduce Dear Gracious, who's gonna share about influencer marketing and entrepreneurship. All right.
Thank you for the warm introduction. That was very nice. I wasn't expecting that at all. Thank you, Matunzi. So I haven't spoken in quite a while, so I'm a little bit nervous. I used to do this a lot, like Summit School and stuff like that. I haven't done it in quite a few years. So I am, amongst other things, I am a content creator. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard that word buzzing around past few months, past few years. Do you guys know what a content creator is? No. No? I'm a content creator. Does anyone know what a content creator? Can anyone tell me? It doesn't have to be correct what you think it is. Can anyone please tell me what is a content creator? Huh?
It's someone who creates content.
It's someone who creates content. Someone also was brave enough to be in front of the camera.
That too, right? So she's given a definition that I usually give when people ask me. I'm like, someone who creates content, right? But yeah, I went to Google and just to check the proper definition, and it says a content creator is someone who creates entertaining or educational material to be expressed through any medium or channel. Okay, so if you say to me, if I ask you, or if you ask me, what is I think the hands will start to drop slowly, even though there'll still be some hands left at the end of it. Okay, so the first question is, how many of you know what social media is? Please put your hands up, okay, don't be shy. Thank you. Okay, keep your hands up. If you don't know, if it doesn't apply to you, put your hand down. How many of you know what Instagram is? Okay, more hands shot up. Little ones over there. Okay, how many of you have Instagram accounts? Okay, still a lot of hands up. How many of you are active on those accounts? Like you log in every day? Okay, a few hands went down. And then, how many of you know what a reel is?
A real.
Okay, that's quite impressive. Okay, so quite a lot of us use social media. A lot of us use these apps. In fact, did you guys know that about, oh, you can put your hands down. Thank you. About over 2 billion people actually use Instagram, actively use Instagram. And this whole world has a population of about 7.7 billion around there. So that's easily like 25% of the world that uses Instagram. And that's basically how my career started. It started on Instagram. I'm just going to tell you a little bit of my story. So I think it started about 4 years ago. I had an Instagram account, just like most of us have Instagram accounts. And back then, Instagram was a lot more simple. We'd post pictures of ourselves, pictures of your parents, your friends, picture of your dog, a picture of, you know, some beautiful landscape, a building, etc. So I was doing the same thing, posting a picture of myself, you know. And so when I started to get interest in my content is when I started posting pictures of my hair. So I had relaxed hair, like most of us had relaxed hair most of our lives. And then I decided to go natural because it was like a popular thing. So I went natural, and then I'd post a picture of myself in my little fro. And then I'd get like lots of likes, lots of questions, you know, like, what do you use on your hair? Your hair's so beautiful. And I was like, oh, okay. Why all of a sudden I'm getting these likes? And I posted a picture of my cats, nothing. A picture of my boyfriend, nothing. But now a picture of my hair, picture, you know, people were interested. And so, okay, except because doesn't have any hair. And I'm posting pictures of my hair content, for example. And back then it wasn't even like content, it was just a picture of myself with my afro. People would ask me like, what do you use? And because I love beauty and I love sharing about beauty, what I use on my hair, what I use on my skin, makeup, etc., I would gladly answer those questions. And so we started getting like engaged with those people. It was more like, whenever I post my hair, what do you use? And I would gladly answer. And I started to build a little community on my Instagram. My followers went up, and I knew people were following me specifically for my hair content, because whenever I posted my hair content, the followers would go up. And so it's a bit of like a drug. So I would post these pictures and people would like, you know, you look so beautiful. And so I worked harder in posting better pictures because I liked the attention, to be honest. And also just the community, like I said. So I would post the pictures, get the engagement, and little did I know that brands were starting to notice what I was doing. And so I got my first brand email. They're like, hey, please can you post a picture? This is our brand. Post a picture of yourself with this product and your hair, of course, and once a week for a month, and we're gonna pay you 1.5. And I was like, what? You're gonna pay me to do something which I'm already doing, which I love doing, which I enjoy doing? And I thought, wow, 1,500 rand.
Yes.
All I have to do is like take this hairspray, put it here, smile, and be like, hey, this is what I'm using. Of course, I had to be using the product, but at that time, to be honest, I didn't even know of this brand, but it was just like, wow, 1,500 rand. And that's basically how I started. Of course, now things are a little bit different. As you grow, you know, the money grows as well. You work with more brands. When I started, I was doing a lot of like hair content, and now it's grown to other brands as well. I think it was 2021 or 2020 where I actually worked with Sunlight, which is so different from like hair, right? But that's the thing of content creation. And basically you put out not only like your hair content, but I was putting out on my stories on Instagram, on my pictures, my life. So it's just everyday things. I moved out of home, I was now in an apartment. People can see, okay, she's in an apartment. And then you have brands like Sunlight, and they're like, yo, here's our dishwasher, please promote this. And so it just became something which easily kind of flowed. And yeah, that's basically how I started with the whole content creation thing. Like I said, I got to work with other brands. Let me just get my notes. Toothpaste, like I said, I started with hair, but now I was doing toothpaste. doing sunlight, I've done sunscreen, I even did some kitchen, I did Glad, I think it was last year. You know, like the foil, the wrapping paper, the stuff that we use to cover the food, like we're having lunch now. We use it to cling wrap, exactly. So I did all of these things, and I'm still waiting to be contacted by Porsche, you know.
Yes,
So that's basically more or less what I do now. Content creation basically is, it's taking content and then you put it out there through digital channels, digital media, as I said. And then, like every other job, there are pros and cons, of course. And I'm just going to speak a little about the cons. Con number one is that it's often very hard work. People look at you and they think, oh, you're a content creator, it's so easy, blah, blah, blah. But I can tell you now, it takes hours. It takes hours, and to create something which is going to end up being like a 15-second reel or 30-second reel. Like you can be shooting in your house, you need different angles. Sometimes the lighting isn't right, and so you end up doing a lot of roles in one person. Not only are you in front of the camera, but you're also the cameraman, you also the director, you also the makeup artist, you are the stylist, you are the editor. You know, editing takes hours and hours and hours. So you're sitting there with like 3-4 hours worth of footage, and you have to condense all of that into like 15 seconds, 30 seconds, etc. So that's the one con. Number two is that it can be very emotionally and mentally taxing. Like she said in the beginning, it takes a lot of vulnerability to put yourself out there, because you put yourself out there for scrutiny, for criticism. People can be very, very critical. So you think that the hardest thing is working with the brands and the brand manager, but it's actually the viewers, the people who willingly chose to follow you, who end up sometimes being the ones who attack you the most. They look for every little thing sometimes, and they can say very nasty, mean things. So it can be very like emotionally and mentally taxing. And sometimes, even though if you're not feeling emotionally up to it, you still have to get up and put a camera in front of your face. And you might not always be in the right mental state or the right emotional state as well. Another con is that you can run into a creative block when you're doing it full time. I don't do it full time, but some people do it full time. It requires a lot out of you, and sometimes, a lot of the times, you're working by yourself. So it's not always easy to come up with creative ideas. And then the last one, which I think is the biggest con, is that staying relevant is extremely difficult, or it can be extremely difficult. You know, like there's a lot of content creators. You're hot today, tomorrow you might not be hot. You know, a good example is like people who were doing makeup, like before 2020, makeup was very popular. During the pandemic, people were not interested in makeup. And so if you were still doing makeup, you were getting left behind. So you need to find ways to be relevant. You need to be constantly doing research, like what are your followers still interested in? You know, and try and create content which they are interested in. If you stay doing makeup, for example, then you get left behind. And if you're no longer relevant, no one's gonna wanna work with you. Like no one's gonna wanna pay you to promote something, because no one actually thinks you're relevant, no one's interested in you. Okay, so a few pros. Number one is that you are your own boss, as with any entrepreneurial work. So you get to set your own hours most of the time, you get to pay yourself, which of course is easier said than done, because there needs to be an income coming in before you can pay yourself. But that's one of the pros, is that you get to be your own boss. And then you're able to get paid for doing something which you love to do. I don't think many people can actually say that they love doing what they do, like they get paid to do what they really love doing. So basically it's like getting paid for your hobby. And then number three, which I think to grow very, very quickly. So like I said, when you're creating content, you need someone who's going to be a cameraman, but you end up being your own cameraman. Then you need different angles, you move the camera from here to there. You need a director, you're your own director. So you need to learn like what do directors do, right? You need someone to make you look good, so you need a makeup artist. You might be forced to learn how to do makeup, because you might not necessarily have the money to pay for a makeup artist all the time. You need to learn how to edit. That's probably like the biggest one, is learning how to edit. Like people get paid big money to edit adverts, to edit commercials, for example. Now you have to do that yourself. So you need to learn how to edit. how to produce, how to create. You know, the list is endless, and so you get to grow in a very short space of time, or rather you're forced to grow in a very short space of time. Okay, so in conclusion, can you study this? Not really in the traditional sense. I would say you can't really study to be an influencer. Can you be taught to influence? Not really. Some people like have it in them naturally, but you can definitely develop that skill. There's lots of courses out there. You can learn how to take better pictures. Like I said, you can learn how to do your makeup, how to do your hair, you can learn how to edit. The list goes on and on. And so yeah, the last thing is that you can't be taught to influence, like I said, but all of us do have influence, right? Not everyone will get to be paid, for example, to influence people's opinions or how they spend their money, but we all have a little bit of influence in us, and so we can all choose to be a positive influence. Oh, any questions?
Do we have any questions? I'm gonna give allowance for the rest in case you have to leave a little earlier than when we do have our little question section. But everybody else during tea time. So I'll give allowance for Mombasa. Come through. No?
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for the talk, dear Gracious.
Sure.
So I'm interested in knowing, like, how much time do you commit to being an influencer? Because you said you're doing it part-time. So how much time in a week would you commit to it, especially if someone's like a professional in another space? Yeah.
I guess that can vary really depending on how much time that you do have and how serious you are about being a content creator. And to be honest, if it's something that you're really interested in doing, you have to commit time every day. So creating content can take a lot of hours, or it can be as quick as a 5 minutes or even a 30-second story, but it's about staying engaged. And for example, if I dedicate in a week on the times when I'm like, okay, I want to put out content for the next 2 weeks, I'll try and do it in about 2 days because it takes the whole day. And then I'll try, and if I'm doing a 30-second reel, for example, if I'm doing a makeup reel, it takes me like half the day to do it, to be honest. And then the whole night to edit. Yeah, exactly. So it takes more than 24 hours to create about a 15-second, 30-second reel. So I would say you must just look at your schedule. How much time can you commit to it? Sometimes you can work at night, or you'll have to work at night. So if you have more time, and if you want to do it full time, you need to put in more hours. Like it can be very taxing because you need to stay on the pulse of things. Like your phone is almost always in your hands. So yeah, I hope that kind of answers the question.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think so. They have a question.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks, Dio, for the presentation. My question is just around, you know, being a Christian and then being a content creator, and then how for you do you balance the two? And perhaps, you know, in your experience, have there been, you know, brands that you said no to, or you know, scenarios or situations that you've said no to because of maybe your moral beliefs or something of that nature?
Okay, I think I've been lucky that I haven't been. Maybe God knows that my will is not that strong. But I haven't been approached by any like questionable brands or any brands that I've had to say no to. So I've been lucky in that sense. But I think, you know, in the content creating space, just like almost any other field, but especially in this one, in social media, there's a lot of like pressure from the outside, and to stay as a, like, you almost like, you don't want to almost like say I'm a Christian, right? Because you feel like it kind of like, it will put you in a box, So sometimes you do find yourself like, fine, you're not doing anything which is maybe unchristian, but you're not necessarily doing Christian, you know,
Yeah.
get what I mean,
Pure
like Christian stuff.
content,
So I think when it comes to being a Christian and being a content creator, it is a bit of a fight. It is a bit of like, for me personally, it has been a bit of a tricky one, I would say. I do like proclaim that I am a Christian. You can share what you share, but most of the time, with a lot of the brands that I work with, it's not much to do with like Christianity. And so there hasn't been that much of an overlap in that sense. My content, to be honest, is not Christian content. And there are some people who specifically have Christian content, and there are people who specifically work with brands. But in terms of like being a Christian and sharing who you are, I think it's actually a lesson to all of us as we share, that we should also just share more of who we are outside of the brands and the makeup that we use as well. So that's definitely more of a challenge to me, if anything, to incorporate more of who I am outside of just the products as well. Yeah, so key.
Maybe just to ask, you're an influencer and you say you've got another professional life. Are you able to divulge what it is, so that maybe if there's somebody here who wants to be an engineer but thinks that, you know, and maybe considering influencer, that those two might just not gel?
Okay, I mean, there are some other people who influence like in their spare time. I'm a makeup artist, so what I do, it kind of makes it easier for me to be an influencer as well, because I'm already in the beauty field, so it's easier in that sense. But some people are accountants, and then in their spare time they promoting other brands and stuff. So you kind of have to make time outside of that. But I feel like those two things can coexist. As long as you can put aside, just know that you have to work harder, obviously, because you have your day job and then you have your influencing on the side, which is working with the brands on the side. So you're gonna have to commit your weekends to doing that, or after hours to doing that, but you can 100% do both. You can, yeah. Okay, Melissa.
Not really a question, but maybe to just add on to your answer. I think maybe there might be like an air of thinking that influencing is always something that is a bit outside of yourself. So even if you're an engineer but you love hiking, you're lucky because while you're hiking you're taking that content anyway. So it's not even outside of your time. So sometimes when you want to be an influencer, rather look for something that comes naturally to you than something that you, especially if you already have a career that's, you know, very 9 to 5 like, and really takes up a lot of your time, but you also do know that you love hiking, you love the outdoors. Would be nice to get, you know, just some free money, free shoes, whatever. But do what comes naturally, I think, to you.
Alright, those are the questions we have for now. For now, alright. Let's go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, dear gracious. God bless you. God bless your work and the hands of your work. God bless our faces before you beat them as well. And stuff. To be coming through with the challenging questions. For some reason, I get challenging brands that always make my father unhappy. I get the most trickiest brand, and it's such a, it's a weird thing because the money is nice once you at a certain level. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, and it's not gonna happen for all of us. Like Cleo Gracious said, you know, some people just share content for sharing content's sake. But for example, you can get to a point where you're getting paid 5,000 rand for a picture, and then you get paid 10,000 for a picture, and then, you know, you get 20,000 for 30 seconds, you know. So it can be very enticing in that a brand, first of all, recognizes you, because sometimes you have to go find brands or, you know, but like when a brand actually recognizes you, and they're like, so Jesus, about this, I won't touch it, I'll just
Oh my God.
take a picture. But yeah, thank you so much, dear gracious, for sharing that. I don't have my phone with me, so I'm not 100% as to who is next. Number 3 was, I know you guys know. Number 3. Do you guys know who number 3
It was
is?
supposed to be Tulega,
Tilago was supposed to be number 3.
so it's Lindy.
Is it Lindy? Alright. Alright, before I introduce Lindy, Tilago was supposed to share on the film and television industry, right? She is a script supervisor, something that we also call continuity. So you know how at some point, how can I put it? There was a whole issue with the Titanic because someone was wearing a modern day Rolex. you know. So continuity is the person who makes sure that the script goes according to plan and things are back in their place, and you're not kind of like wearing your stuff from home when you jump onto set. I so happen to work in the film and television industry as well. I am a writer. I am an actress. I am a producer, an art director, and as of late 2021, an executive producer. Thank Jesus. So, thank you so much. So an executive producer is the boss. You're the money. You're the money. It wasn't my money, guys. Shame. Akona will tell you when she stands up. She'll tell you more about that. But yes, you're the money if you're the executive producer. If you're the producer, you're the person who kind of like spends the money and hires above the line and below the line crew and all of that. Cast. There are many moving parts in film and television. Do not deny your children or yourselves the opportunity to work in these spaces. There is so much to do, right? There is, for example, yes, the production department, so you're doing the admin, the financing, all of that. We have accountants who help us with the accounting of it's a business. At the end of the day, Akona's going to tell us about production accounting when she stands up. You have the director who, handles the story. You have the art director who is the one who puts the pink fluff on the bed and puts the box of empty juice there. That kind of stuff. And you have the people who assist them, right? You have the whole camera department. You have the sound people. You have, in the camera department, there's tons and tons of people. There's people who, specifically shoot with drones and all of that. You have your gaffers, which are lighting technicians, and don't think it's just limited to the small stuff. I've seen people move stuff with cranes on set. Another compromising brand I shot for recently. What else do you have? You have your writers, right? People who actually write the stories. You have your, what else do you guys have on set? Makeup. You have makeup artists. So makeup artists do work regularly, right? Depending on the industry. You have your catering. So if you cook, you can cater for the people who come onto set every day and work. You have your units, which are the people who move the stuff around, and who bring like the tents and the chairs and the setups and clean up and and strike. There's something for everyone, depending on what you like. Then you do have your actors and your actresses. Not recommended. All of these things. Pardon?
Stuntmen.
You have the stunt. Then you have the stunt people. Are you that guy for us? There's definitely stunts. People who've also been athletes or did sport in school and stuff like that. You can come in and do that. Recently shot an ad where I had to do swim. Right, I had to swim and then we had to perform underwater, so it was like a 5-meter pool. So situations where you have to kind of go down with the weight, and then you have to and the director's speaking in a speaker underwater and stuff. So you never know. Your swimming might come in handy, someday. So film and television. Hopefully, we'll get the opportunity to talk to someone who's had a steadier journey in that field. Lindy, my darling Lindy. She's my darling Lindy. I've known Lindy since primary school. Since back in primary school. We were not in the same primary school, but we'd always meet up at athletic programs. And the first 2 times we had a conversation, she laughed at me for losing a race. Because I had a bit of a knee injury, and she's like, what's going on with you? And the second one is very valid. She's brilliant at netball. She played provincially and nationally and all of that. I am horrible at netball, but by some chance I was always in the first team because I was really tall. I've been this tall since primary school. So I was always in the first team and stuff, but I was really horrible at it. And then by some chance, when I left Blue Hills, I went back to Liberty Christian College, and then we were in the same high school. Lindy is the only person who has the who had the ability back then to challenge me to study. I'm a lazy child. Ooh, I'm a lazy child. She challenged me quite a lot. We were friends throughout high school, and then we were friends when we got to tertiary. I took a completely different route from what everyone expected. I was supposed to be a doctor, a neurosurgeon. Ha ha ha! Didn't quite happen. We were in the sciences classes together. Even in the first year, she, we'd be sitting there doing her projects and stuff. So she is a scientist. Lindy is a scientist. She will tell you more about her studies. And she is in mining. And she's not just in mining like my girl's in mining, she loves the Lord. She's married. She has a beautiful son. Who gets to be my nephew. I have many nephews, as you guys know, nephews and nieces. And she supports my career choices, as crazy as they are, as if they were her own. Absolutely. And she's also one of my non-broke friends. I could never go broke next to Lindy. She's a spoiler. She will spoil you absolutely rotten. She's those hearts who, if it's good enough for her, then it's good enough for you. So with that said, I'm gonna ask you to come up and share a bit about your journey. Lindy, everyone, Lindy.
How does this work?
Just left and right. I'm gonna
Just
bring it
left
up.
and right. The setup is a bit different to what I'm used
Okay. Just look to my right. Okay, I guess I'll also have my phone in front of me. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Tinzi, for that welcome word. You make me sound so mean, like I laughed at you because there was something wrong with you. Goodness. Okay. Good afternoon once again, everybody. I am Lindiwe Nkambuke, and of course, as Matunzi has said, today I'm going to be sharing with you my journey in mining. So I'm a mineral resources manager at Glencore Eastern Chrome Mines. I acquired my tertiary qualifications from the University of Pretoria, Wits, Henley Business School, as well as GrowthLink. So I am professionally affiliated with SAGNAS and GSSA, and I'm a registered professional scientist. So I entered the mining career in 2015, and when I entered there, people used to say that it's not for sissies, that women who work in the mining industry bring bad luck, and that you must be manly in order to be in the mining industry, and it's vicious and it's dangerous for women. And of course, it is dangerous to a certain extent, but I think the industry has come a long way in ensuring safety for everyone, and in a sense that it's vicious only because of like the sexual harassment. Like women really do go through a lot in the mining industry, but all of those things, it's a work in progress. So some of the hindering factors why there's like few representation of women in mining, it's because physical, of course. Working underground is considered dangerous and requires extensive physical strength. As a result, mining has always been a male-dominated sector, and women have been considered to be weaker than men and incapable. But of course, we know that that is not true. We as women are very much capable. And when it comes to our physical strength, we cannot debate that. Male and female, we are different, And usually when people come into the mining or they go into male-dominated industries, they want to become men. That's not what we want. We want women to be themselves, embrace their womanhood, and come in and show what it is that women can actually offer. We don't want to offer the same thing that men offer. Do you understand? So I think that's where the problem basically comes in, where women come in and they want to be the men, you know? So of course, physically, according to biology, men are more stronger than women. So there will be certain jobs that they do better because of the physical build, you understand? But that does not make us lesser than them. It's just a matter of our capabilities, you know? And then when it comes to legal, so we sit with a problem where there's more, of course, male in the mining industry than there are women because of legislature. In 1991, there was actually a law that prohibited women from working underground. So all the women, you were not allowed to work underground when you were a woman. Until just, I can't remember exactly the year, but all of those laws were turned down. And just recently we now have the mining charter, which is trying to address that, where mining companies are pushed to be intentional in empowering women and putting women in positions. And putting women in positions and this whole mining charter does not mean that they're going to push and just put a woman because we have to put a woman. It's competent women, women who are capable, women who know the job and not just a face. And that's what we also want. You don't want to be put in a position because you are just a woman. I'm sure no one wants that, you know. So that's what the new mining charter is trying to address. And then socially, women were labeled as bad luck if they step foot into the mine. And also another tricky thing of working in the mining industry is the fact that when you get into the mining industry, you are at your childbearing age, you know, and which also coincides with the time where the prime of your career. So it makes things very difficult. And within the mining industry as well, there's different careers. So if your career involves you going to the field or going underground, pregnancy does play a huge role in delaying you. And that's something that people don't really want to talk about, but it's something that really, really happens. You know, where you find out women, we have to be very calculative as to when we're going to fall pregnant, you know, and we have to basically, I've always had a fear of falling pregnant at the wrong time, you know, so it makes things very, very tricky because it brings a lot of delay. But that's a whole debate on its own because it also goes by choice. But now it's a matter of you have to choose, and which is something that I don't like. You have to choose between career and family. Do you understand? But it is something that is a challenge, and it's something that we definitely have to work on. And that's the thing that I've raised my hand to say, I want to bring about change with how we deal with this. I don't have a solution yet as well because the show has to go on. At the end of the day, we are in business, you know. We cannot wait 9 months and say, okay, we're not gonna fill your position now, we're gonna wait 9 months for you. The work has to go on. It's a reality, it's a business at the end of the day. But we have to come to a place where we create an inclusive environment for women, and so that they also feel welcome, so that they don't have to be in a position where they choose family, is a career, but they feel welcomed at all. So women in mining, the statistics, funny enough, in the 1800s, there were actually more women in the mining industry than there are now. So I think it was in India where the mining industry was occupied by like 44% of women, but then that was overthrown because it was decided that no, it's dangerous for the woman, so we're going to pull all the women out. And then now it's going to be just males that work at the mine. And I mean, when you think about it openly, like if you have an open mind, the person who made that decision was probably thinking for the woman, saying that no, because it's so dangerous for the woman, we need to protect the woman. Do you understand? So let's take them out. But we don't want that. We don't want that. They must create conditions that are also conducive for women as well, so that women can also thrive in such environments. And you don't make the environment, you cannot pull the woman out and say it's dangerous for you guys. What about the men? We need to create environments that are also safe for the men, because the men are also people at the end of the day, and we tend to forget
Yes, we are
about
people.
them.
Thank you.
We mustn't forget about the boy child. You know, honestly, because we focus so much on the girl child and the woman, and we forget about the men. You know, so this is just the numbers of women in the mining industry. These are 2018 numbers. So top management women in the whole country is basically 16%. Senior management only 17%. And then skilled technical professions, that's 18%. And when you look at the numbers as per commodity, you can see that the percentage of women employees, all of them are less than 20%. So that really, really shows that women are not represented within the mining industry. And I mean, mining is so exciting. It really, really, really is exciting. And the industry is quite broad. There's quite a number of careers that one can actually embark on. We have mining, electrical, mechanical engineering, there's metallurgy, there's geology, there's rock engineering, survey, environmental, HSEC. You can also be in finance, HR, you know. So there's really a lot that one can actually embark on. And within the entire mining life cycle, there's definitely space for women in each and every stage, you know. So it's very important for women to throw themselves in the ring of opportunities and just apply themselves and not be scared. It's not as vicious as people think it is. You know, going underground it's really not scary. You know, and we have a problem of attracting females, but we can't retain them. You know, so that's something that also we need to work on. You know, because when you start with your career, like with the attraction, there are bursaries, you know, and then there are internships, and there's quite a few programs that we put in place, you know, to try and accommodate women, right? But then the issue now becomes at retaining them, and then we've seen that actually sometimes trying to keep people because of money is not always it's not always, you can't always win people with money, you know, because when this career starts, you start with these big salaries hoping that they'll stay, but that's not the only thing that actually keeps women, and that's something that has been noted. All right, so just to touch on my career, I started my career, basically I worked for Glencore. I've mentioned that. My journey with Glencore began in 2011 when I was a student at the University of Pretoria. They awarded me a bursary, and upon successfully completing my studies, they offered me full-time employment at one of their operations, Glencore Eastern Crow Mines. So I started off as a junior geologist, and then I worked to become a mine geologist. So as I started as a junior geologist, 3 months into the job, I was basically given the opportunity to run a whole shaft to manage the geology of Magareng mine. So I had the title of junior geologist, but I was working as a mine geologist, and I was only offered the title mine geologist in 2018. Yes. And then I became the project and exploration geologist. But even when I started, I made sure that I exposed myself in all aspects of geology, you know, and I also extended to other departments like the rock engineering, as well as the survey, as well as like underground mining. So I always, whenever there was help needed, I would always raise my hand, you know. I was a little idiot back then. I was viewed as an idiot, but it has actually worked for me, you know. And then I became, after becoming the project and exploration geologist, I became the chief geologist, and just recently I have been appointed as the mineral resources manager. So, as the mineral resources manager, I'm responsible for the technical departments, which comprises of geology, rock engineering, mine planning, as well as survey. So all those departments are basically technical departments. My specialty is in geology. So one of my biggest challenges as well was to now being given the opportunity to lead all of these departments, because all these departments also have their heads, right? So we have the head of survey, the head of rock engineering, and also now we've just appointed the head of geology. After I was promoted to MRM, obviously there was a vacancy for the geology position. So we've just recently appointed the chief geologist. So
female, I think.
she's definitely female. There was no way that I get an opportunity to appoint an HOD and I appoint a male. So it was definitely a female. So I appointed a female. So I'm happy with that. I'm sure we're gonna have a great relationship. Where I am finding it a struggle is the males. Even the male geologists, I struggle a bit with them, but it's a work in progress, and we have to also be very empathetic and understand, you know, because the other candidate that we went into the interviews with, you know, we have to, upon me being excited about my position as well, I also have to be aware of his feelings as well, and that's what makes us women beautiful and excellent leaders, you know, because we always kind of like thinking of the other people, you know, and it's work to a certain extent. It works against me to a certain extent, because I understand what he could possibly be going through, because he has the more years experience, you know. He is he's male, you know. He might think that not that he might think, but I mean, I don't even want to sorry.
It's fine.
Head of, you know, it's that natural thing that we grew up, and then the males are like the head, and now there's this female who also they refer to me as young, you know. I don't think I'm that young, but you know. So it's a lot of things that he also has to do with. So I've always tried to be very accommodating, you know, but that's where the struggle is, because males are very arrogant.
Kulani, come talk about it.
I accept.
It is what it is.
Got a lot to learn.
Honestly,
Yeah, we
and
do, yeah.
for some other people it's easy to embrace change, and for others it's difficult. It's really, really difficult, and you can imagine what that can do to your ego. Here's this person,
Male-dominated environment.
and it's also a white male-dominated environment, where we know that all the high positions, you know, and we still sit in rooms, and it saddens me when somebody says the first, we have our female, you know, they're very proud to say, yes, Lindy, we're here. We've also, you know, and it's not, I mean, it's 2022. This whole the first black, it's not something to be proud of, you know. So yeah, but then of course if it's something that needs to be celebrated, of course, by all means. But for me personally, it kind of like, it irritates me. And you still find people that are happy to be in a room and say, yeah, I was the only female, I was the only black. It's very sad. It's not cute. It's really not cute. You know, so it's very important for us that when we get to certain positions and when we have the influence, that we try to bring our sisters up with us. And that's exactly why, one of the reasons that I had to like appoint a female chief geologist. But it's not only because she's female, she also earned the position. You know, there's so many other people that we could have chosen, but we chose her because she gets the work done, she is capable, she is competent, you know. And there's this thing where we confuse competence with the number of years. When I went for my interview, obviously the number of years is always going to be a question, because they required someone that has 10 years experience. Of course, don't have 10 years experience, you know, but I made it clear during the interview that I am teachable, I am capable, and most importantly, I am willing, you know, and I have all the bare minimum requirements, you know, all the technical capabilities for me to actually lead the department. I have that. The only thing I do not have is the number of years. And what is experience if you're gonna do the same thing over and over again? Do you understand? So, we must not be, what do you call it, insecure, because that is one of the things that I used to struggle with. You know, every time somebody asks me about my career, I don't want to talk about the number of years, you know. I'm like, nah, you know, and I always say, no, when did you start working for Glencore? I'd always make sure that I say, I've been with Glencore since 2011, you know, and I don't want to say the years, because now somebody's going to calculate, and my imposter syndrome would be like, oh, okay, good enough for this, Emma, you know. But I've learned to understand my journey and not allow other people to dictate how my journey was supposed to be. And so what does it take to thrive in a male-dominated industry? It's guts, it's gratitude, it's grit, it's grace, and very important, it's God. Most of the time, there's gonna be people who try to basically bring you down, say a lot of things, and want to tell you that, no, you are in this position because you are a black female. You are in this position because you are, you know, but no, it's because, of course, you are highly favored. And when God's grace is upon you, there's nothing anybody else can do. And if you have that, and it is backed with your academic accolades, it is backed with your technical capabilities, you are untouchable.
Yes.
You get into that room and you show the men that I am as deserving. If there are certain projects that you feel like you are deserving of, do not be shy about it. You raise your hand. You raise your hand. There's quite a number of things where I would be like, you know, dismissed. And it's okay. And it's very embarrassing at times. But when they are sitting back at home, they will remember.
Yes.
They will remember that, hey, Lindy, way, you know? And you mustn't be shy to let people know what your ambitions are, you know? Because even with the position of chief geologist, there was a high chance that I wasn't going to get that position. But because I had always made it known that I actually want to grow within this department, you know. And the one thing that deterred me from that goal was the fact that I fell pregnant. And remember what I said about pregnancy in the mining industry? It kind of like delays you and whatever. And a very sad thing is that I lost the baby. However, I felt like it was a blessing in disguise, because I felt like have I carried full term, I was not going to get that position. So it's very sad, and that's why I say that is something that I want to take an active role in and actually fix that, you know. And with the MRM position as well, immediately after I was appointed as the MRM, 2020 happened. So there were not necessarily, there were some changes that took place. So our boss from head office, he took an early retirement. So that's how the opportunities kind of like now open up. So my boss at the time, the MRM manager, he moved to head office. So my planning, the planning that everybody knew was that, of course, after 4 to 5 years, I'll be ready to occupy the MRM position. You know, at the time, I was definitely not ready. I was definitely not ready. And when they told me that, we're going to give you an opportunity to also act, I was like, me? Act as MRM manager? Okay. It sounded a little bit weird. I spoke to my mentor, and that's why mentorship is very important. I spoke to my mentor, and my mentor was like, what do you mean you are not ready? I'm like, but I was just appointed now as chief geologist, and then she asked me, were you not assisting the MRM manager with his duties? Are you not the expert in the ore body? What does MRM require of you that you feel like you are not capable of? You have like a year to prepare, and your interview starts today. You know? So my interview, so how it happened was that the other candidate acted for 6 months, and then I acted for the other 6 months. But for me, my interview started the day I had spoken to my mentor to say, listen, they say I'm going to be acting. So she was like, your interview is not going to be in 2022. Your interview actually starts today. And I applied myself. I went in hard. I went, and the thing about it is that because I felt like I wasn't ready and I needed to acquire a lot of knowledge, it pushed me even harder. You know, Tunzi knows I didn't sleep. Like I used to work so hard, but I was like, this is only like temporarily. Once I get this, I will rest. You know, and I pushed hard. I really pushed hard. I put in the effort. And when the interview came, they didn't really call me. So the day before, I called HR to say, hey, listen, I didn't get a call for the interview, you know? And then they let me know that they were like, oh, okay, we're not sure what happened there. And I was like, no, I just needed to know why didn't I get the call. And then like a few minutes later, they gave me a call. They was like, oh no, the interview is tomorrow. So I never even got an opportunity to prepare for that interview, but I did not need to prepare because my interview started, you know? So I went into the interview and I did what I needed to do. So one thing that I'd like to leave with you, in whatever industry that you are in, if you are easily offended, you can be easily manipulated. So never allow yourself to ever be easily offended.
Amen.
So thank you. I think I went way over time.
All right, that's Lindy, guys, my friend. Our friend. Thank you so much, Lindy. You'll definitely get to chat to Lindy a little bit more when you have tea and cake, because I know you guys are gonna stay. Look at you guys looking interested. You're number 4, hey? Yes. Okay, so time is not necessarily on our side, so I'm gonna ask our other speakers to. Oh, you. Oh, Uncle Howard says we've got time. Sabbath, we got time.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Number 5. Give me number 5. Is it
Spanish.
It's Tim. Is it Palisa?
Oh.
Are you number 4? Oh, sorry, it's me. You can't count. My goodness. So it's gonna be Timbi and then Palisa. I'm gonna introduce both of them so that they can just go back to back. Okay. So, by the way, if I say someone chuckled at me or laughed at me, it was a life lesson. Okay. Because I know I'm gonna say Palisa chuckled at me as well. Tembi is my baby sister. I have a knack for adopting, whether it's kids or sisters. It's just a thing that I do. You guys remember they all used to play keys for us?
Yeah.
Yes, they went to the same high school, and I was trying my hand at an events company. So no judgment. Events company, and I wanted like a private chef situation. So Zara was recommended. I also liked her Instagram page. So Zara came with a friend, and they were a package deal. And the package deal was Tembi, and Tembi used to do the photography. She's actually been to Metro before, once or twice, to help me with some picture stuff. She's attended some stuff at Amazing Grace as well. She's an absolute sweetheart. I am the luckiest girl ever. She's an absolute sweetheart, and I remember her not being too sure about the completion of her course. I think in 2nd year, I think it was just Hatfield fever at the time, but she is now a qualified architect. She's an architect. She's also a business mind. She is also a content creator. A lot of the ladies that you're going to hear speaking here are actually content creators on the side. And she also loves God. She likes fitness. Don't know why, putting pressure. But yes, so with that said, I'm going to ask Tembi to come and share her journey about architecture and design. And if you want to talk about photography as well, you can. All right.
Thank you so much. I was having spoken in a while, so it's a bit nerve-wracking. But like Matilda has said, my name is Timbegi Latari. I am doing my honors in architecture at University of Rotterdam, and at University of Witwatersrand, sorry. And next year I'll be pursuing my MProf, which is my master's in architecture, and qualifying for that completely. So yeah, let's get to it, I guess. So I never envisioned this career. It started off on a very weird note because I had no idea that architecture existed as a profession. The first interaction that I had with floor plans was at my parents' house when they were looking to have an extension of having an additional double garage, and they had this drafts person come to the house, and I was very intrigued by a set of plans, and I thought to myself, I had no idea that people do this as a career. I didn't know that it was an active pursuit that people, took part in. And fast forward to, I think I was maybe in grade 10 by that time. In grade 12, I was highly involved in everything creative. I did dramatic arts in school, I did visual arts. I was just an all-around creative person, but I also had I guess a bit of left brain, right brain type of characteristics, because I was also like highly kind of mathematic, scientific, all of those things, and I was caught in a limbo, if you will, of what it is that I wanted to do. But I've always known that I'm a very creative person, and so in matric, I was part of the press team at school, the media team at school, and I thought, oh my goodness, I want to do this for the rest of my life. We were doing these 30-second ads for Mzansi Magic. I think at the time it was called iSchool Africa, and they used to, have the 7 schools of excellence all across Gauteng, and they gave us these MacBooks and cameras, and we were having the time of our lives with these 30-second ads that used to air on Mzansi Magic at the inception of the channel. And so I thought, I want to be a director of photography. I want to be a cinematographer. That is what I'm going to do. And so I hauled my parents to AFDA and AC, and I was like, this is where I want to be. And naturally, as black parents would, love them to death, they were like, this is not a real career. You cannot do television. Like, this is not something that you can pursue. And so to my utter disappointment, I had to reconsider and do something else. And so I took a year off in 2015, and in 2016 I went to the University of Pretoria and I enrolled in town and regional planning. Absolutely hated it. It was so much legislation. It was all about zoning. How do we plan for towns? Where do we want the school to be? Where do we want shops to be, malls to be? And I was like, this is not what I want. But I've always known and trusted God to give me the redirection that I need, and I surrendered completely to that. And I'm a firm believer that your vibe attracts your tribe, and I stumbled upon
Boss.
What a vibe! What a vibe!
And so I stumbled upon a building, an architecture department building called Burgundy at the University of Pretoria, and I was taken aback by all these people that were building models of buildings. They were doing so many creative things, and I knew that moment that this is where I wanted to be, and that was how my journey with architecture started. So I was in a constant need of like rediscovering myself. I like to believe that as people we are not single-faceted, we are multifaceted beings, and we are in a constant pursuit of discovering what it is that we want to do. And I think the pertinent question with me was always, what is my life's purpose? What am I here to do? And even though this is one vehicle of doing it, I don't believe that this is what I'm meant to do. Like, this is my greatest purpose in this world. Maybe this is a vehicle to get to that, but I don't think this is the it-all and end-all. And so I did my undergraduate studies at the University of Pretoria, and for the first time in second year, when I was having the existential crisis that Tunzi was talking about, I failed a module. My goodness, it is the worst time of my life, and probably my first engagement or encounters with failure. And I took that as a personal attack on my character, on who I am. I had crazy imposter syndrome. I'm like, oh my God, I have to be dumb now because, you know, it was a civil engineering module and I grappled with it so much. But I appreciated that level of failure and failing in academia, something that I'd always been excellent in from high school, my whole entire life. My parents would tell you I was just this brilliant kid collecting all awards, and for the very first time in varsity I experienced failure. And that opened me up so much to how essential, quintessential if you will, failure is to your journey as a person, and how often you should open yourself up to it. And so I completed my undergraduate studies. Never got to graduate across the stage because of COVID, but I did it. It was amazing. I went in jeans, collected my certificate, and called it a day. It was absolutely incredible. And in the year, this was last year, yes, I got to work for a construction company. And we're doing a lot of projects. I was so open to so many things. I got to work on like a proposal for Prasa. It was incredible. It was amazing, and I was exposed to the corporate world. And for the first time, it was like, oh my goodness, this is what grown people are doing with their lives. Wow, would you look at that? You know, a little black girl from a tiny neighborhood in the Val doing amazing things in corporate. And it felt like a total blessing. And then this year I got the privilege of I was having yet another, like I told you, I'm in constant pursuit of, you know, my purpose, and I was having yet another existential crisis. I'm like, I don't want to be like in a construction company. I want to work for an architectural firm. I want to explore what it is to be on the creative side as opposed to the more technical, you know, on the ground side of things. And I remember feeling like I needed to let this go, but you know, as people, when you don't have a backup plan, you're just like, what am I going to do with myself if I don't drop this and just let it go? And in November of last year, I handed in my resignation letter. I had no plan, no backup plan, nothing. It was almost immediate. I handed it in with immediate effect. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't allow myself to be here. Here's your resignation letter. And I just did it. And shortly after that, I got contacted by an architectural company which I am currently being sponsored by and mentored by. It's called Light Architecture, and they do amazing things. They built the PwC building in Midrand. They built a plethora of buildings in Rosebank and Sandton. And they were like, we want to sponsor you, or you have the choice to select whether you want to come and work with us or if you want to do your honors and your masters, and then you can come and join us after that. And of course I said yes. It was such a beautiful opportunity. In the midst of that, I got approached by KFC as well to work for them as a designer. KFC, like, yes, chicken people. And unfortunately I had to decline that offer, but it was just an exhibition of how good God can be and how much he can show himself forth in our lives. It was just so much evidence of that. And what is the journey looking like? What is the journey yet to come? I'm, like I said, going to pursue my master's. And how the architecture field works is that you do your 3 years in your undergraduate studies. You take a year in between, you go and do your internship to gain experience. You go back, you do your honors, you do your masters, and then you get experience for 2 years, whether it's during the time you're doing your honors and your masters. I have friends that are working and studying. Personally, I don't have the capacity. And you write your board exams after the 2 years of mentorship, and you become a professional architect. So not like becoming a doctor, you know, boards, and you get affiliated with SACAP, which is the South African Council for the Architectural Profession. I think I need to speak on the pros and cons of the career itself. The cons are that you work, it's excruciatingly long hours. I've had hours and hours and hours of, you know, sleepless nights, whether it was an undergrad or it was working right now as well, it's a lot of sleepless nights, it's a lot of hard work. Secondly, it is also emotionally and mentally taxing because you apply yourself creatively, and as creative people, we attach ourselves to our work. And it's one of those things where you have to constantly be presenting your work from conceptual stage to technical, all of those things. You're in constant interaction with clients, you know, all those sorts of things. Even in your studies, you're in constant interaction with your lecturers as well, and they critique your work quite a lot. So I'm open a lot to criticism, but at first, obviously you aren't, because people don't like being criticized. It's not a thing that we enjoy. And then it requires a lot of your commitment. You need to be obsessed or you're going to be average. You know, and I'm a strong believer in that, be obsessed or be average. What are the pros? It creates so much social awareness. You become a very socially aware person because it is the art of space. You need to understand how people interact and engage with space. The reason someone would sit against a wall as opposed to in the middle of a room, that is the psychology of, you know, human beings. And you need to understand sociology, you need to understand what people are doing, because you are creating space for people. It opens you more to like creative pursuits. I have a lot of friends that I did my undergraduate studies with that have gone to film. A lot of them, I have a close friend that is a graphic designer. Some people have gone into fashion. So it's almost like getting a fancy BA general or general arts degree. And I love the career flexibility. I've never been, I love the 9-to-5 thing, but it's not really my thing. I'm more entrepreneurial, and I love how it opens you up to having your own practice, to being able to, you know, do all sorts of things with the degree that you have or with the professional qualification that you have. And lastly, it opens you up to communication. You become an amazing communicator. You're able to speak to people. You're able to exchange ideas, whether through drawing or through speech. And that sort of thing. And so, yeah, that is my journey. I hope I've impacted you in some way.
Thank you so much, Timmy. I'm assuming that after this you guys will want to chat to Timmy just because she's so bright. She's such a light. Thank you so much, Timmy.
Bye.
Glowing as she helps us grow, right? All right, cool. So I forgot to introduce Balisa. So it's going to be Balisa, Norma, Tuelihle, Akon. Is that okay? Is that everybody also? Okay, because we're listening to you. Okay. So Balisa, Balisa. Yay, Balisa. So I've known Balisa Cook since 2005 or 4, somewhere there. Visiting sleepovers at her place exposed me to a lot. I love food. Guys, I love food. I love food. I have a lot of allergies, but I love food. She and her family, her sister and her mom, were part of my culinary journey. I once killed chicken twice at their place, and I never lived it down for a week. You know, when you're gonna coat chicken, back in the day, you'd first parboil it and stuff. I boiled the chicken that was supposed to be on the stovetop. Didn't go down well. And the reason I was always sleeping over there is because Bali's mom made sure that all of us who were foreigners in Joburg had another home to go to. So that is very kind. And my first experience with Mediterranean food, we didn't know that's what it was called at the time, was with Balisa, because we'd go out to restaurants and she'd actually study the menu and come home and throw olives in the pasta, and you're like, what the is going on? But by the time it gets into your mouth, right, and stuff like that. She'll tell you about her own story about when she studied something else first, and then it's like, what are you doing? But luckily she came back to her calling, and she's doing amazing things. She just launched something recently. God bless you, congratulations. She'll tell you guys about it. So that will be Balisa, who will be speaking to us about the culinary arts and English entrepreneurship. Right. And then after that we have Noma. Noma and I are yet to go out for coffee and know each other deeply. But I met Noma here at Metro, at Culinary Place. And her daughter is also a culinary artist. Yeah, beautiful stuff, just by the way, if you didn't know. And she's going to be talking to us about marketing. I think we got comfortable at the ladies' brunch. Do you guys remember that we had? It was the first time I heard her laugh outside of church and stuff like that. She's been very helpful. She has offered to share for any part of the program for the entire month. She's done some of our setups outside.
Man, wow.
She's just always ready to help in whatever way that she can, and that's what I now know of my younger sister. And stuff. So Noma will come after Balisa and speak to us about the marketing industry, correct? Yes. And then we're gonna have Utubelishe. I met Utubelishe in 2004 as well. Tube was like low-key our first, like out there celebrity human. Do you remember? You'd like open magazines and she'd be there for like fashion things and time, and then she worked for Glamour, right? You did something for Glamour magazine and stuff, and then she was doing like musical theatre with Andile from thingy, Southern Church and stuff, and there'd be these pictures of Tube, and then people would steal her pictures off the internet and do stuff with them. I remember there was like a non-alcohol.
I know the salon.
The salon one.
Picture, yeah.
There was a non-alcohol campaign. We went to a shoot and we were like, but that's too bad. It's like, so like a picture was that's still quite white. Don't drink, no drinking. Okay. You see, her ministry goes. And stuff like that. But she's going to be speaking to you guys about commerce. Commerce, right? She'll also tell you about her journey and what she's doing. Last but not least is another piece of my heart. That's Akona. Akona is she's a stunner. Why am I getting emotional too much? But she is one of the most nurturing and kind humans you'll ever meet. She's quite loud and outspoken, so you'll assume that she's just like. But she's one of the gentlest souls that you'll ever meet. And when I met her, she was studying. Had you just switched to financial management? But if you switch on your TVs to any Mnet channel or any multi-choice channel, you will definitely see Akona Joloza in the credits. Okay, so this is the actual celebrity in the credits. Okay, also working in the film and television industry. She will explain her journey as well. She's been in Korea teaching English. She's taught maths at school and all sorts of things. But she'll tell you how she started with financial management, but ended up in television. And she gets us a lot of hugs and stuff because people think she's got all the money at Mnet. So it's like a really, really, really cool vibe. So those are the women who are going to be speaking to us. Thank you guys so much for saying yes. After that, we will just say a word of prayer and then usher out to chat to them personally. Is that all right?
Amen.
All right.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Sabbath. I say that because I'm foreign in these streets. It's good to be here. It's really good to be here. So my name is Balisa, and I am professionally a chef, and I am a serial entrepreneur. I love money. Not the love of money, love money. Anyways, since Matunzi has sort of changed my speech around because she said to you guys that I'm going to tell you about my journey, it wasn't really starting there, but I'll just do that for like a minute and then I'll actually get into what I prepared. So coming out of high school, I wanted to, actually the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to study something in the culinary arts and nutrition, and so I got a one of those government programs that were doing like a bursary to study in Taiwan, and I got into one of those programs, and I was supposed to, like, straight after Heidelberg go straight to like Taiwan and do school there, and that fell through, thank you to corruption. So then I had no plan B basically, and I didn't know what to do. So I scrambled around. My mom's friend was a dean at UKZN, a dean's assistant, sorry, at UKZN, and she just got me into sociology and anthro, I don't know what it was. Didn't do a lot of attending of classes because I think I was just there because I just didn't want to be home or get lost in whatever people can get lost in just sitting around in Joburg. And I'm quite a busybody. So anyways, I found myself at UKZN, just wandering the streets of UKZN, not really knowing what I'm doing there. Soon after, I decided, you know what, this is a waste of money. Let me just regroup a little bit. Came back, found a job in retail at Akajo, and I was working there in Rosebank for a good 6 months. So that first year was then done and dusted. Then I decided, okay, I've even forgotten which schools I went to. I took the scenic route. I took the scenic route. I think that really destabilized me, you know, like when you really set on something, and then I just got very destabilized. And my family kept pushing because I was very academic, so they were like, no, go do actuarial science and what. I shadowed a few people a bit in the finance world, bankers, investment bankers, and I was bored. It was very monotonous. Everybody was wearing black. Irony. But yeah, I just knew it wasn't me, so I took a journey into just finding exactly where I needed to fit myself into. In that time where I was spending at home and in retail, my grandmother, my late grandmother, my most favorite person in the whole wide world, taught me how to sew, because that was her side hustle while she was a domestic in Parktown. And so she was teaching me how to sew. And then I just started making clothes, and I started flipping 1 rand and making 2 rand and 2 rand and making 4 rand, and I got hooked. And then I started my first business, which was named after her, called Kate Kochia. Her name was Kate. And that's when I think mine and today's first entrepreneurial sort of paths met. She was interning at Glamour magazine, and I got my first 2-page spread on Glamour magazine. Connection and collaboration, ladies. Connections and collaborations. And I think, that just blew up my business in a way that I couldn't actually even maintain, because I was just a one-man show. And all the ladies here can probably attest to the fact that dressmakers or designers never really give you your stuff on time. I learned a lot of lessons there. I made a lot of mistakes. I disappointed a lot of people. There were a lot of I'm sorry's, there were a lot of free things, free outfits being delivered. But I think that's when I started sort of, I learned from failure. My whole journey has been a whole sort of succession of peaks and troughs, but I think more troughs. Maybe even Culinary could explain what kind of model that is in economics, where it's more like it's recession, and then moving forward from that, in the meantime, on the side, I was also cooking. My mom would have stock files and whatever, and when she would host, it would be me cooking really, and she always encouraged that I draw up an Excel invoice. And she would pay me. She said, if you're gonna do something, you must be paid for it. Another piece of my background is that I come from a entrepreneurial family, mainly the matriarchs. So my mom had a garage by Baragona Hospital, Angel Garage there. Both my grandmothers used to sew and sell linens, kids' clothes, all that stuff. So I really grew up around entrepreneurial women. So I then decided when I was 19 that I'm not going to study something that's going to make me work for someone else. My whole family thought I was nuts. because also I think I was just the smartest one there. So they were like, no, you're gonna go do a degree, you're gonna whatever. And I just said, no. If I go to school, it's to learn a skill, basically. So then I decided that I'll do fashion school. I went to Lysoff, very expensive situation there, that I didn't like after a year.
Oh my gosh.
Because I realized that you're gonna be paying so much money over 3 years, and the prospects that they keep telling you about all the time are that you're gonna, start from the bottom and like, what is it, like 3.5. Didn't make sense to me if like the scale was just didn't make sense. I said, okay, no, I've already learned the skill of sewing, so I'll just run with that, and try and make something of that. And then I doubled back again and went to financial management at UJ. I don't know what is going on here. But it was that's my journey, basically. Okay, now let's just get to the next part of the journey. I then circled back quite a bit and went back to the culinary space. Reason being is that I had then actually registered my company partially on time in 2012. I was 22 years old. I didn't really know what I was going to do with it, but the vision in my head was always, the name itself, I saw it I just saw it vividly on like a sidewalk of sorts as a bistro restaurant. And I just told myself, I called my eldest brother and I said, I got this name. I just woke up and I just had this name. And he's like, just register it. Doesn't matter what you'll do with it later. Just park it, because that name actually is a beautiful name. I said, okay, fine, cool. 2014, then I decided, okay, this is my last round in school. And my mom says she cuts off educational benefits at the age of 25. So I had one more year. Yes. And she then said, one more year, this is it. After this, you find your own way, you make your own way. So I then decided, okay, what can I do in 1 year that is the qualification that I need? And I went to do culinary arts at International Hotel School in Westville, Durban. And that's basically where the professional side of my entire journey began. So basically, what is culinary arts? And this is the career side of what I do. Culinary arts is the art of preparing food from raw ingredients to a finished product. But the art of culinary arts lies in the process. The creativity lies in how one manipulates the elements of cooking to create a unique finished product. Can anyone tell me what the unique, 4 elements of preparing food are?
Boiling.
Heat.
No. Heat. Someone say heat.
Yes.
Yeah, heat is one of them.
Water.
No.
Flavor.
Salt. Yes. Another one. No. No.
Plating.
You guys are never gonna get this one, it's fine. So basically the elements are salt, fat, acid, and heat. Those are all, yes, and you can try sort of find and say, but boiling, that's heat. Those are just the elements of cooking. You see why some people are to Velika's kitchen on Instagram and some of us are chef. Put some respect on our name. Yes, so basically it's salt, fat, acid, heat. All these elements can be used interchangeably together, different elements, to create something out of basically nothing. My favorite thing we used to do in school was mystery box. Where it's similar to the MasterChef mystery box, if I've got any MasterChef addicts here, where basically we walk into the classroom and we have a box that just has a whole lot of ingredients and you have to make something out of it. Not to blow my own horn, I've got the receipts. I won every single mystery box we did. So I really am like a creative, and that's why my journey was always so complicated, because I didn't know where my creativity really lies. Just actually see her looking at me. I actually also had applied at UCT for BA in music.
Oh.
Yeah, and I did the what's it, entrance exams and whatever, and I was accepted. Yeah, violin and saxophone and voice. Yeah. So it's for anyone who has a kid that is a creative, let them do everything. Yeah, let them do everything. Like cast the net wide. That's just that's what I'm actually doing with my son now. Like he can just do whatever he wants to do. It's fine. Okay. What type of person must you be to get into the culinary arts world? Culinary arts has two different sides. So you can either decide that you want to own your own situation, or you can be an employee. The employee side is very, very tricky, first of all, in South Africa, mainly because chefs are seen as very low level, low income. It's a very low income job in South Africa. Chefs start on minimum wage, literally on minimum wage, with a qualification that can easily cost 80,000 rand a year. So it's a very unpopular thing that parents want to put their kids through or in. Rather just go overseas kind of thing. But even there, the standard of living is also quite low when you're starting out as a chef. So it's you really have to have a lot of passion, and you have to really be an employee to rough it out in that industry. You really have to have a goal that will take you a long time to eventually get to. It will take a lot of plasters, a lot of swear words in the kitchen, a lot of just a lot of pressure that brings you down. It's not a very gratifying experience at all. I remember I did my training at the Oyster Box, which is obviously a very prestigious hotel in South Africa. And it was my worst experience ever. I've never even eaten at the Oyster Box since.
I can't afford to eat there.
Take your but the environment is very much like what you see on Top Chef or the Gordon Ramsay kind of environment. But it's not a real environment. It's very put on. It's a facade. It's a, what can I say? They just borrowed it from. It's very un-South African. It's very un-South African. It's very unsavory. That's why women don't last in that environment. Also just because of when you want to start a family, the hours are very, very long. When you do a double shift, you can easily be there for 14 hours or so. We would come in at 6, meaning you're up at like 4:30. You leave at 3. Sometimes they ask you to stay on further just to prep for dinner service, and it's already like a 14-hour day. So the hours are very long, and the pay is very low. So it's not a very gratifying job. And obviously me knowing that that's definitely not what I'm going to do, I then decided when I was done to literally run with running my business. One thing I can say is that when you are going to be an entrepreneur, even before, there's a lot of preparation that comes that has nothing to even do with your actual chosen business that you want to open. Being a kind person, being a respectful person, also gets you a long way, because when you're an entrepreneur, people actually have to buy into you first. And I say this as a segue to I graduated in 2015 July. Last week of July, the first client I landed was AXA. And I got that because of my mom's kindness to a certain family.
Wow.
And when they landed this contract, they needed to partner with a caterer. Wow. And they trusted this wet behind the ears 25-year-old who just started her business, but the company was registered and my papers were ready. I was ready. So preparation as well is key. Like stay prepared. Do the menial paperwork that you think will never, matter right now. But when someone calls you, at least you stay ready. But anyways, and so that was literally my first thing, was a corporate client, which was huge for me. And a lot of people would look at me, peers or whatever, how did you get this? And I think it's just those elements that you don't notice, personable elements, respectfulness, kindness, just being a nice person, So now I'm just moving on to entrepreneurship, because it's a double barrel talk. Entrepreneurship is a calling. It's definitely a calling. Entrepreneurship is one great faith exercise.
one great faith exercise. Entrepreneurs and farmers are the same thing. The amount of patience you need, the amount of faith you need, the amount of consistency that you need is of biblical proportions. I swear. You know, when Noah was building the ark, can you just imagine this guy cutting down trees? You know, I imagine this took a long time. You know, cutting down trees. It's hot that time. There's no rain. This guy's just cutting down. Every day he's busy. He's busy on something that people don't understand. He looks crazy. He literally looks crazy, but only he had that vision, right? But he had to keep on keeping on, even though people were looking at him like, what are you doing? Quit. Stop. Your family is hungry. You're not even doing other work. Why do you keep doing this? Do you know what I mean? And if Noah at any point listened to all of this, you know, the end result, the vision that he had would have never, you know, come true. And that's literally what entrepreneurship feels like. You know, sometimes you look at your friends. Literally all my close friends, literally, all have BMWs. And I'm the only one who can tell them exactly what their engines can do. Like, I'm a car fanatic. But, you know, I look around and I'm like, if these things really bothered me, I would have quit long ago and tried to find some other thing, maybe just to be employed or consult or whatnot. But you really have to stick to what your goal is, your vision is, and don't look at time. Everything happens for everybody at a different time, at a different pace. The things that really bring me joy aren't really what relates to the next person. What brings me joy is seeing my staff member come in with a new watch, or, you know, new shoes, new sneakers. We have a sneaker culture in my business. Yeah. You know, just those little things, a new hairdo, you know, new fresh nails, you know, things that they really weren't doing before I had employed them. Just those little things that bring, you know, girls joy. Okay, moving on. Sorry. I'm just gonna share just few lessons I've learned along the way with entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship has also taught me to be very spiritual, very connected to my relationship with God. And one of my favorite verses for the last 2 years was Romans 12, verse 1 and 2. It says, "Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." The last sentence of verse 2 states that we then will be able to test and approve. Now, if we break this down further, entrepreneurship is like the process of cooking. There's many elements, micro and macro, but I want to focus more on the micro elements that you need when you want to be an entrepreneur. You know, I think a lot of you have watched the movie Karate Kid, but not the Jaden Smith one, the old school one, not the 2000 one, the original one, the real Mr. Miyagi. Wax on, wax off. Exactly, and that's where I'm going to. If you remember, the Karate Kid was, I think, for the longest of time, he was never learning how to do karate. He was never learning karate. He was just painting the house, picking up stuff, doing odd jobs, washing the cars, waxing the cars. And he got so frustrated and he said, "Why am I not learning? Why am I not learning?" He says, "You are learning karate." You know, if you can't have that mentality, drop it. Just don't try to open a business. Like, don't do it. It's a waste of literally your time. Rather go back to the verse I just read and consult with God and see what else you can do. Because it really is wax on, wax off. There's days where I would put my car in neutral, go to a meeting looking fancy, order sparkling water, but be full when I get there because I don't have money. I have, like, you know, those real lived experiences about it. Back to the micro elements, this is just the last point. The micro elements on sort of being an entrepreneur before you are an entrepreneur. So it all starts from within. This is the micro part of it. It's all within. It's all the discipline, all the practice that you need to do.
in your mind, so it's transforming and renewing of the mind. Your mind, you need to read books that jog good practice, books that help you exercise discipline, books that put good pressure on you to be a better person, to have a better character, to understand life a bit more broadly, to understand that what you're going through, someone else went through. I like reading biographies and autobiographies of other people's journeys. That really helps you stay the course. And you learn that life is more about progression than perfection. You know, we see Kevin Hart, like, he's such a success, and you think it's overnight, you know, but it takes 10,000 hours to be an overnight success, you know. Another practice and principle is to exercise. I'm not saying like 100 burpees a day, but I mean just get your body moving, get your mind, get oxygen in your brain every day. It does such wonders. It opens up your mind. Things that you were struggling with just sort of become clear in the form of exercise. Sometimes it gets tough. Sometimes let's say you're on a hike or whatever. Even just those principles on a hike where you have to stop and rest. Those are life principles that can get you through daily, just daily woes of being an entrepreneur. The energy that you emit, the energy that you let in is very important. Very, very important. I always say these days that I start my day twice. I start it in the morning when I get my son ready for school, and then there's a huge blowout, there's a tantrum. Then if I take that tantrum and I run with it through my day, it's not gonna be a good day. So then after I drop him off, I sit in the car, take a deep breath, and I say good morning to myself again. Then I different energy, because energy, I feel, is so important, especially us women. We're such feelers, we're very emotional, we're sensitive, and I feel like if you protect your energy, that really helps. 24 hours is a long time, and if you just protect your energy, you can get so much done in a day. You can be productive instead of just throwing in the towel and saying, you know what, this kid dribbled me this morning, I'm done, I'm going back to bed. Just really protect your energy. The environment that you surround yourself with. Our friends, our family, our person you choose to be your boyfriend, the person you choose to marry. Very important.
Yeah.
That is a make or break, trust me. Even just being in an environment where let's say you're still living at home, for instance, and there are people at home that sort of can pull you down, instill fear in you because of things that may have gotten wrong, their journeys, just even that, moving out for those reasons, I would really recommend. Protect your energy at all costs. God will meet you where he needs to meet you, you know what I mean? He will provide for you even there. It's so important because when you have been entrusted with a vision, to partner with God first of all, actually, so that he can also bring in the right people around you. And when you protect your energy, you know how to read an energy that is not going to support this vision that God has given you. And you need to really do that at like all costs. Sorry, it just gets me a bit emotional. Okay. Yeah, it's very, very important. I just don't want to get too personal about it. So it's something that really touches me, and but also the greatest lesson I've learned, because if I didn't take that seriously, then let me flip this and make it good news. Then I don't think I would have, when I started this talk, I had said to you, saw a sign and a restaurant.
Yes.
And I wouldn't have gotten to a point where last month I signed the lease for my restaurant. Parsley on time. The herb.
Yes.
Yes, and all these 26 Bumpers Road in Dunkeld.
Coming.
Yeah. So And I think I've in the last 2 years, like COVID as well, I've really learned these principles that I just spoke about today, and how important they are, and how I have been working on this for 10 years. I'm 32 this year. And only now I get to this point. I grew up in a very privileged family. People may have assumed that my mom should have given me whatever, $1 million or $2 million, but that's not how she operates. And she didn't have it also. There's that too, right? But the journey has really been worth it. This really feels like the greatest milestone ever. I've lost a lot, but I have always remained and kept myself. And that is my entrepreneurial journey. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, I'm standing here. I feel like I'm learning new things. You know, from people who are like way younger than me. You know, but I think to learn and to have the attitude of, you know, I want to know. You can't stop learning. And I really appreciate what every single one of you has shared. I think, you know, you've touched somebody today with whatever you've said. You've motivated, you've catalyzed something in someone. So when you leave here, I know with me, like, I'm really touched. So I really appreciate you coming here and opening up and being vulnerable. I mean, this is about careers. We can just talk about, you know, make it clean. But you guys decided to make it personal and also motivate at the same time. I don't know where to start. You've told me, you know, I mean, you've asked me this, like, I don't know, a month. First year, when I went to varsity, it was called Young Afrikaans University. Then it's yeah, I'm getting away my age. It was a good year, and you know, I think we come from backgrounds where you told, you know, you get an exemption, go to varsity, and you just go apply, and you don't know what you're actually applying for, you know. And I knew that I was creative. I wanted to be a fashion designer. My mom was like, that won't fly. Go do something that will work in a proper office, you know. And I thought of psychology. I think maybe I should have done psychology because I'm very empathetic, but I felt that if I did, I will carry people's problems because I'm you know, like, I listen and I want to solve your problems and I want to carry them with you. That's how I am, and I thought, no, I don't think I'll manage, but I suppose you get trained to manage those challenges. But then I went to UJ now, and so BCom, I thought BCom accounting, you know, and then I saw BCom communications, I saw advertising, I saw industrial psychology. I thought, you know, it balances me out. and I opted for that. I must say I really enjoyed it. When we got the first term, when we went like first class, the lecturer looked at the hall. It's called Biles, for those who've gone there.
101.
Biles 101. It's huge. And some of us, were sitting on the side, sitting on the corridors. We said, don't worry, be comfortable. By mid-year, you'll all be comfortable. So don't worry, relax, And I saw that I wouldn't be one of those people who are like not part of this. And we worked hard, but then towards the end of the year, I got pregnant, and it was a choice whether do I go back to school or do I stay at home. I'm saying this because somebody is studying and might be going through the same thing, and I told myself that I know where I come from. If I don't continue with my studies, I know where I'm gonna stay, I decided the following year that I'm going to go back and I'm gonna enroll again for my second, because I passed. I made sure that I passed. I went back for my second year, enrolled for some of the subjects, pushed as much as I could, but realized that I wouldn't make it the second semester because I started sleeping in class. You said like you try, listen to the lecturer, and then you wake up again, and I saw that this is not gonna work. Just give yourself, and I'm glad that I did, because when I went back, I got to be with myself. I got to enjoy the pregnancy, and then the following year, I decided to go back and I completed. And fortunately enough, I got my internship at Total in Rosebank in the, what do they call the development department, where you ascertain which sites are the most profitable for you to set up an engine, and you work with models that help you calculate and all that. You submit proposal, and they embraced me. I wasn't like one of those interns who are asked to do admin, and it was real exposure. And then because of my hard work, they asked me, where do you really want to be? And I said, marketing department, and they located me to be in the marketing department as a marketing intern. And that's where we were working with various projects. My love, I think, was working on social upliftment programs, and that's where I was. But then the company went into a phase where they were restructuring, and I thought, I've got a child. I don't know where this thing is going to it's gonna end up. So I had to look for a job, found a job at Langamakanya Architects, the guys who did Ushaka Marine, and I worked there. There isn't much to tell there. And then I joined, SABC in the content department. And I think what, for me, has been really something that has opened doors for me is having a positive attitude, and volunteering. You spoke about, doing all the things that other people don't want to do and learning new skills. So that's what I did, and I found that when you do that, you position yourself for certain opportunities. And what I really enjoyed, and I was young then, was the road shows that we had in terms of going to the different provinces, promoting the kind of content that we were looking to have. At that time, the Content Hub, for those who are in production, it was fairly new, and there was a drive to make sure that South African television content was telling a good story about us as a nation, And I think with people coming in, those things fall off. The vision gets lost, you know. But I think being under the leadership of people who were at a level where, you know, this is where we're going, it motivates you as well to say, I want to be that kind of person that when I'm in a certain space and have influence, I'm able to direct things in the right position, in the right direction. So in the Content Hub department, I was given the privilege of steering the road shows around the country. And I was young. I mean, it's something that I'd never done before, you know? And when that happened, I was, okay, just reversing. I was in a relationship at that time, and you see certain things. You spoke, Palisa, is it Palisa? You speak about relationships, and you find out that, you know, I'm not supposed to be in this relationship, and you decide to kind of cut off, you know, and it's hard to, if that relationship was something that you really treasured, it's not easy to just let go, you know, and when I did that, the person was like, oh, but come back, I'm gonna take you to Cape Town. We as ladies get promises.
Promises,
you know?
promises.
Yeah, promises. Yeah, you get promises, and he was like, I'll take you to Cape Town. And I was like, I've never been to Table Mountain, you know? And I thought, no, it's fine. I'm fine. I know the reasons why I'm cutting you off. And my heart was sore because I wanted to go to Table Mountain. I wanted to fly and go on Table Mountain, you know? But I'd always thought God is a provider, you know. For me, like out of everything, I know my God as my provider, you know. And at SABC, then I got that role. Then there was the road show where you went to each province, and when I was in Cape Town, I was like,
There's Table Mountain.
I don't remember which hotel, but it's one of those at the waterfront.
Yes.
You know, yes, babe. And I'm like, God, you know, because the truth, Pastor, is that when you are good looking, and you are young, and you are intelligent in a workspace, there's in a workspace, you get people who are in senior position entice you. You know, I saw that in the other company that I mentioned, where girls were like, you know, so that they can move up quicker, you know, you open up yourself, you know, and there you are being normal, and you're like, you know, the opportunities avail themselves.
Come on.
And you decide to say,
Amen.
I'm gonna let God. I mean, I don't know how long it will take me to get up there, but God, I'm going to trust you, you know, and yeah, so it's just to say, whoever will be watching this, and if you're in that position, just trust God.
Yeah.
That even if it takes a while longer, there's some lessons, as you said, you know, that you need to learn. The vaccine, you know, you need to go through that to be a complete person. So if you take shortcuts, you are skipping certain things that God wants to reveal about yourself, the strengths that you have, the gifts that you can only discover if you're put in a certain position. So that's where then I get to be on this roadshow that I'm managing. I'm going to the different provinces. Now I'm flying, you know, I'm flying to each province, you know. She's laughing, but at that age, that's something big, you know, you dream about those things. We don't grow up in families where, you know, they fly you to Cape Town, you wait till you work to do that, you know, so I got to do that. And for me, when I went on Table Mountain for the first time, and I was like, God, you're good.
Yeah.
You know, I thank you that I've trusted you with my myself. So that was at SABC. And then I was hired at the JDA. JDA, I went in as a development coordinator, not as an intern, not as a marketing person. And wherever I was, I made sure that I worked hard, that I volunteered, and my attitude was positive. You want to speak? And then at the ACBC, at the JDA, because I worked hard and took on things that other people were not really interested, we would have meetings which were, scheduled like bi-weekly. You know that this meeting is going to take place. And those meetings entailed that there's reports that need to be printed out, and other people just did a quick job just that day. I would make sure that I get all the information a week prior from all the managers and make sure that I print out everything that needs to be printed. The CEOs will get the information upfront. Little do you know that someone is looking. It's those little things that open doors that other people take for granted, And then one day, the CEO comes to me and she says, Norma, I've noticed that you've been working hard. What is it that you would like to do or would want to do in this organization? What's your interest? And I thought it was just in passing. And I said, I'd like to be in the marketing department because I thought, they're doing nice things, creative stuff and all that. And she was like, oh, okay. And then a bit later, I get a letter that says, Norma, you've been appointed in the marketing department as a coordinator. And my heart was overjoyed because I was like, I didn't think the little things that I'm doing are being noticed, And you get there, and guess what? When some doors open, the devil tries to close them. But it's not that if the door is closing sometimes that you're not meant to go into it. Sometimes you need to persevere or just ask for God for the light that you need to have to see what's going on. And when I get there, there's the lady who was in charge of that department was like, I've got someone else in mind for this position, And she quickly sent me out to be an intern in another position outside of the company to do like editing work. But one thing she said is, I know that you don't like this, but one day you will thank me for it. At that time, I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I've worked hard, And then she took me out. I was in an editing company. Little did I know that the skill that I was learning there with interns, I was no longer an intern. I was maybe the age of 30, but now you are positioned with interns. And at that time, it's like you've got a responsibility, you've got a child to look after. So you can't just say, So you do it. And I did it with a heart that was like, I'm here to learn, And I learned a lot during that year. It's something that even today, when I write my reports or I do anything, it has opened doors for me, And from then on, I was like, okay. Then what happened with that internship? Reavaya was being planned for. And the same CEO who had moved me to the other department said, Norma, there's another position at the Department of Transport, and it's marketing. There's no marketing department. Go in there and see what you can do. The only role that I had to play was to be in charge of the Facebook platform. And I went in there, did what I could, and I actually started the marketing department for Reavaya.
Wow.
So it's those, it's snakes and ladders. Life it's snakes and ladders. You go up, when you get there, somebody says, go down again. It's like you get baptized all over and over again. By fire, of course. But anyhow, I got there. The only thing that I was tasked with was to manage Facebook, something I had never done before, but I said I could. I managed it and I saw a gap, started up the marketing department. You remember that during 2010, Reavaya was the transport during that time, and the publicity around it. So I was there like 2009, So I think for me that was the privilege that I had, the privilege that was open to me to actually do that. And then another snakes and leather thing, you work there and you manage that department almost single-handedly, and you get told that you cannot appoint people because the positions, that department doesn't exist, so you can't appoint people. So the option that I have is, okay, maybe get interns. And it's okay, interns we can allocate. That can come from another department, the money for that. I get interns, and funny enough, it was the three of us, but the way we managed it, and the way I see it managed now, there's like 10 people or more in that department doing what 3 people were doing. In the most busiest time of that, of Reavaya. When you establish something, there's more inputs that you need to do, but we're able to, as 3 people, myself and the 3 interns, we're able to do way more than, now, yeah. But just to say, what I've learned, there's been other developments in between. Challenges where, I didn't want to go there, but I think also maybe because of time, it's just to say that when you trust God, it doesn't matter what situation you find yourself in, you need to trust God. You need to make sure that the principles that we taught here in church, if we practice them, they position you for anything in life.
Yep.
This is a school in itself. You can be anywhere, but if you remember the lessons that you taught here, you can thrive anyway, Maybe just to fast forward, then after the Reavaya stint, that was a secondment. I go back to the previous company where I was seconded, and then you told that, sorry, you need to occupy the same low position that you left before you went to Reavaya. Because now at Reavaya, you're like a senior specialist, but you come back, they say, whereas the CEO was like, please normalize this position and make it equal to what the employee was doing previously, And I decided that, okay, it looks like I've reached a cul-de-sac, and then that's when I decided I would do my MBA. It's something that I wouldn't have done. I didn't even think of doing, but a colleague of mine was like, I've done it, you know me, if I've done it, you can do it, And I think also it's sometimes not having role models that you can refer to, but when you have people in the workplace who say, you can do it, God sends people who can encourage you in the right direction. And then I enrolled and I did my MBA, and I remember some people that I'm close to in some other space, which I would say, saying, who do you think you are? to do this, you know, basically, you know, because you're coming from a space where, like, you're not really a nobody, but because you're God's child, but it's like, who do you think you are, you know? And I remember when I completed, it's those people, when I told them, they were like, you know, and then my senior manager who had blocked my position and didn't normalize it, when I told her, I remember her, she almost kind of flipped, literally. I recall that image, she almost flipped. And she said, I was surprised why she would, because she's a woman, she's supposed to behave when someone else is growing. And she said, I thought you said you were pregnant. And I thought, what I said and what you said don't sound the same at all, you know? Whilst I was, it goes to show sometimes when you are trying to grow, it's not that everything will just open up. During my studies, I remember it was rough at work, it was rough at home, it was rough with the studies. And the first year I was thinking, Norma, when you know, you are crazy. Why are you doing this to yourself? Basically, I spent that year in doubt. Why are you doing this to yourself? You know, it was only when I wrote my second exam at the end of the year and I knew that I didn't pass that exam. And I walked out knowing that from now on, I am sure that I'm going to get over this. I didn't know how, but I knew that it's done. You know, like when you know you don't know how even with enrolling for the studies, I didn't have the money. And somebody said, come and do, there's a project to do with sculptures. Come work with me and we'll see how we pay you. That money was able to pay my money. And I'm thinking, if I hadn't enrolled, I wouldn't have been asked to be part of that project. You know, like at the Union Building, the women's, what is this, museum, you've got sculptures there. So those were the sculptures that somebody said, come and work with me so that you are part of this and you're able to pay for your fees. You know, so for me, the journey of my career is the journey where I can say God was with me. You know, it's a journey where you learn more. It's not just about I'm going there to make money. It's almost, it becomes, I don't know how to put it. You were talking about the question of the existential question, you know, where you're asking, Guti, what is my purpose in this? But also I think the spaces that we find ourselves in are spaces where we discover ourselves as women, are spaces where we get challenged as women, are spaces where we are forced to find a leaning pole, you know. It's either you find it somewhere or you find it with God. And for me, really, it's really been God saying, I've got this, I've got your back. I think maybe before I close, it's just to say, for women in the various workspaces, women with influence, you know, let's continue to open doors for those who are coming after us. Let's not be the ones who are blocking other people from getting through, you know. It's beautiful when you've got the power or the influence to actually open a door for somebody and see them developing in front of you. So if we continue doing that, the world becomes, the workspace becomes a much better place, not only for you, but for the other people coming through. Yeah, so it's just to say that whoever's watching this, whatever challenges you're going through, just trust God that He's got your back. You'll experience a snakes and ladder situation in your life. It doesn't mean that God is not there, but persevere. Persevere.
Afternoon, everybody. So, Akona and I are doing the graveyard shift. We stand between you guys and dessert and home time. So I'm just gonna keep to the time that Matunzi briefed me to do. So I'm just standing here in front of you just to speak on behalf of a career in commerce. And the reason I said commerce, it's encompassing of a lot, right? But I'll speak to where I landed in all of that. So when I say commerce, think of studies that fall within accounting, auditing, tax, economics, finance, marketing, logistics, strategy. And there's a lot, HR as well, apologies, HR falls within that as well. And there's a lot that opens your world up to. So all the ladies shared, beautiful stories up here. And interestingly enough, every single business that falls within those industries or disciplines needs commercial skills. So people who have studied commerce or practiced a discipline within commerce in order to be able to thrive, survive, and scale. So that's why it becomes quite a lucrative path to take. So I said my name, right? Tibelihle Mavuso. The last position that I held was head of product development at a financial market infrastructure company. So we'll group it as financial services. And what that means is I was looking after the prioritization of new features that are developed on the systems that organization was marketing and selling, as well as their products and services. So just looking after, what we do next, who we're doing it for, and why we're doing it. And in my career, so I worked for Nedbank, Investec, Time Bank. When you open your banking apps and you're able to buy data, you're able to initiate a call via telephone banking or whatever feature that you're able to do, that's what I've done in my career. So it's about prioritizing features that we build across, all online channels. Interestingly enough, I've never studied IT. So once again, doing a commercial discipline opens you up to this world of, things that you're able to do. So I studied a BCom marketing management, did my honors in logistics, and then joined a graduate program at Nedbank, and then in that way was then able to get into digital product development. All right. Just on commerce and commercial studies, it's quite a lucrative path, very competitive. In order for you to stay relevant, you always need to be, studying something new. So the fact that, personally, I've only done my honors. In order for me to be competitive at the next level, it's advisable that I do my master's. So whoever's in a position where they have the opportunity to study further and do their master's, in order for you to remain competitive in a corporate environment at least, it's advisable that you do a master's, or that you pick up other courses that will strengthen the discipline wherein you land up. So that's the sorry, I'm just thinking. So that's the commercial study. It's quite intimidating to speak about it because I know a lot of people in this room are working, within corporate, and they fall within either of those categories. But I think from my journey, and unfortunately because of time, I won't go into my journey specifically, but we can speak about it offline, online, and go into it. But I think some key lessons that I've picked up are that, and a lot of the ladies have mentioned it, that you need to be willing to do the jobs that other people aren't prepared to do, in order to be able to differentiate yourself. You also need to understand how, as an individual, what your unique selling proposition is. So a lot of people, get into commercial studies, but when we are all, now put into this corporate environment, what is it about you that brings more value, to an organization or to a team over the next person. So you need to apply your mind to, what your unique selling proposition is as an individual. And that's all from me. I think I wish everybody the best in terms of where they find themselves in terms of career. And one last thing actually before I sit down. The great thing about commercial studies and commerce as a career is that you're able to position yourself as a generalist, and you're able to also change industries. So if financial services isn't working for you, you're able to make use of that discipline. So whether it be risk, operations, data, HR and the likes, you're able to make use of that discipline in another industry. And you're also able to pivot quite quickly as well. So if maybe you're moving from HR and you want to get into marketing, it takes, applying yourself, or rather going through a course, a postgraduate course, and then you're able to pivot and position yourself, for a role in another one of those disciplines. So that's also another thing that makes it lucrative. All the best to everybody, and thank you.
This for last.
Greetings everybody. My name is Geologist. I am a production accountant for a television broadcaster. So I've never spoken about, I don't speak about myself a lot. I've never spoken about my job. So this is like the first time. My sister always say I don't play my job because what I do is quite awesome. But yeah, it just keeps me grounded. I love my job. I love working in television. I love hanging out with awesome people. I love what it comes with. I love the high pressure. When was it? About in April, we had there was a decision that was made that we need to have a show on air in 7 days. So it's so you can imagine the high pressure that came with and stuff. So that was quite exciting. What do I do as a production accountant for a TV station? I look at budgets, all right? So when somebody says that they want to do a television show, whether scripted or it's a reality show, they come up with a budget. And the budget will say that it's going to cost this much for a producer, it's going to cost this much for a line producer, the content director, the actors are going to pay this much, and so forth. So that's what the budget looks like. So I review that to see that, well, have you spread your money and what I also do is forecast. So I work for the channel, right? And so I oversee the channel budget to say that, okay, this year we've been given this much money, and so we're going to split it across the 20 shows that we have on the channel for the year. So I oversee that, and so that comes with forecasting, which is just the normal accounting stuff. And then I also review financials when the productions do their financials and they submit to me, and then I see if what they've done is up to par. So that's a bit of an auditing side of things. What I have studied is become in financial management. It's also very exciting to see that there are a lot of people that went to tax, like myself. University of Pretoria. So I did become in financial management. I'm currently furthering my studies like other awesome people, and I'm working very closely with management accounting because I love the costing side of things. My field or my passion or what I would like to do has got nothing to do with the CA route. So because of that, that's not something that I'm working towards or whatever. But what you can, other careers or other jobs that you can have in a TV station. So the nice thing about our TV station that a lot of our shows are not made in the TV station. We commission people to go do their thing and then submit the shows to us. So what you can do is do that commissioning, being in that commissioning space, which just overseeing the production and just applying the creative of those sort of shows. and then you can also do content acquisitions, which is like buying things like Game of Thrones. Yeah, so those are like quite exciting stuff. And then just the normal scheduling, what plays at 1900 hours, for example. And then the standard stuff like marketing and HR and PR as well. Careers within the production space. I myself have not worked in the production on set or whatever. So I've been on for set visits also, though, but that's a fun times. So the careers that you can do is what Matunzi had mentioned earlier. You can be a producer, you can be a director, actor, you can be part of wardrobe, you can be part of like the props and stuff, and then also you can be into the theater space. I think a lot of people don't quite mention theater and how important it is, and how also, because it's all storytelling at the end of the day, so that's also another field that one can go into. And then lastly, where can you study all of these nice things? You can study them at a university, guys. Like, if universities have degrees for drama, like, it's a thing. So like your normal Verts tax as well, and performing arts spaces, and the theaters also do like short courses in something or whatever that they focuses specifically on the theater, and the most popular one, which is after. Yeah, that's all that I have for my presentation.
Which company do you work for? Can you tell us which company you work for?
I can tell you which company you work for, but don't ask me for money outside.
I'll ask you inside.
I work for Mnet, right? And I specifically support the Mzansi channels. So that's your 161, 103, and 165.
All the ones I don't have.
If you have contact to our channels, please subscribe. Not to mention.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Palisa. Thank you, that was moving. You made me cry, so you owe me dinner. Thanks. Thank you, Mama. Thank you so much, Luigi. We're going to Table Mountain this time again. We're gonna do it again. Thank you so much to Tube. Short, sweet. And thank you, Akona. It's just very conflict of interest is a problem. But if you could just, it would be great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to all the powerful, beautiful women who stood up in front here. Thank you to everybody who sat down and listened.